Very good afternoon, everybody. Welcome again to Friday Drinks. It's another Friday, and it's another time for us to sit back, chill, and have a discussion. We've got the team. We haven't been together for a while, so it's great to be in the studio, and it's great to actually have everybody around. Ranga, where were you last week? For the last 2 weeks, we haven't seen you.
Oh, well, last week I took a short break with the kids. Because we knew that it was going to be difficult with the Heroes holidays. I usually don't want to be traveling during Heroes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was away just to recharge my batteries.
You're not a deadbeat father.
Oh, definitely not. No, I can be anything but.
Like our city fathers. Great to have you back.
I took
you're spotting an interesting cap there, Mukanya. What ape is that?
Yeah, well, another Soko decided that, I need to have this regalia, and because we are proud Mukanyas, so I thought, thank you very much, Marere, and
I must also...
I thought you'd have put a bonobo, which is the more, the warmer, more loving ape than the chimpanzee.
Well, it just shows that you just don't understand. It's a family, right? There's a significance of it. It's not directly related to the animal itself, but it's about genealogy. Who started first? So this just tells you. So if it's a Shumba, these are latter-day totems. It means that you're not really the originals.
Really?
Yeah, that's what it means. But if you're an original like Ziva and myself, then you know that from a totem genealogy perspective, we are the originals. Am I speaking out of terms? Or?
No. That's correct. Yeah. Thanks to Marere. Sorry, but I forgot my Zia cap. He also made one for me. So.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, no. Well done.
And he actually knew how to spell it properly. Like instead of Zia, I'm Dao, so I said Zia. So.
You're happy. You're pretty chuffed about it.
Yeah, of course I'm chuffed. I'm chuffed. And someone was making a point that, it just shows. So as you get to the 40s, these totem things become very, very important to you. And someone actually made a very important point that if you look at the generation that is... maybe our father's generation or 20 years older than us, these guys, they take these things very seriously to a point that even deals are actually allocated on the basis of, you are most likely to get a good reception to a fellow Mkanya. Regardless of whether you are Mkanya in Gutu or you are a Mkanya from Chipinge, we call them Simangos, or maybe from Matebele, and that's the Ngubes and etc. And
it's Malawi, the
Piris, So it's not tribal. It's just really following it's more like clansmanship or something. It's in a way, it's I don't know whether it's good.
How
or
is
bad.
it not tribal? Yes, I know it's genealogy, but it does put people into tribes, doesn't it? That's the very definition of it.
But if
not necessarily tribe, but clans. It just it's the roots of who we are. It just traces back to who we are.
Exactly.
It's like Jewish surnames or. Caucasians, they have their surnames and the lords. It all, goes back to a particular ancestry. So this is just us acknowledging what our ancestry is, primarily because our surnames are meaningless.
Really?
Yeah. Your surname, it doesn't mean much.
Most likely that it was a nickname.
It was a nickname or your grandfather's name.
Yeah.
It's actually, that's not who you are. But the minute we say Shumba, that actually traces down your ancestry and actually who you are. So people can actually locate who you are. And I think that it's important, especially as far as our history is concerned.
And the good thing about that, look, there can always be a counter argument. But I would say if I would, to put across a point in support is it cuts across tribes,
Yeah. That's why I said it's not
Yes.
tribal.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, like I've said, it's Kom Kanya, and if you go to the Chiping and Daus, it's Smango.
Smango, yeah.
If you go to Matebeleland, it's Ngube. If you go maybe to Malawi or part of
Piri.
Zambia, it's Piri. So it's really
in Mozambique, it's Joao.
you see. So it means
No, I didn't. Clearly, you guys find this much more fascinating and interesting than I do.
so clearly.
Well, we're not just interested in Roman history.
Yeah.
You have to be interested in your own history.
Exactly. If you were a proper original Shumba, you'd know that they call it a Swanda in Matebeleland, and you know, something different. So it's not tribal, because you see a Swanda, you're like, you're my brother Shumba, you know how it is. But look, it's part of our heritage. So thanks so much to
to our fellow Soko.
Tafadzwa, yeah, cheers.
And what were we actually drinking today? We've seen that bottle before.
No, you haven't. Well, you've seen the logo on the bottle before, but you haven't seen this particular bottle.
the M something.
They all look the same as far as we're concerned. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no. So this is from the Single Malt Scotch Whisky Society of South Africa, and it's got quite a cheeky name. It's called Dirty Sexy Marthosh Whiskey. So you know, they have really colorful names for their bottles, and so this one it'll be interesting to see whether it lives up to its name. You know, the description is actually quite colorful as well. Peat fires, raw tar, chimneys and Vatican smoke, ambers, ash and honey drizzled over charred mackerel, washed down with salted margaritas.
That actually sounds interesting. I
Yes.
don't know if it drinks that way, but it actually does.
It sounds really
very
interesting. So it's peaty, it's smoky.
The word salad reminds me of someone. But yeah, it actually does sound interesting. And
you have your Yeti Rambler out, and you're hiding whatever you're drinking.
Yes. Yes.
What, is your pastor watching the show?
I don't know whether he's watching or not. I'm a grown-up. I don't have to hide away from my pastor, because the all-seeing God is seeing me. So, but it's just ginger lemon concoction.
Okay.
So I have to drink it from this Yet Rambler, because it keeps the heat. I'm coming under a mild cold. So
Again?
yeah.
What's happening?
Just before the show, you guys were asking me some very nasty questions. You should not ask a fellow human being those questions. They are private ones.
We just need your medical report now.
No,
it comes from a place of love.
Yeah, we need to know if we need to find another producer.
no, I'll be here.
Should we start looking?
2019, Dengendi Chiripo. Yeah, but look, I'm really happy that probably we're coming to the end of
This winter.
the winter, because
It's been a terrible one.
it's been a terrible one.
And there have been some nasty bugs going around.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just thought maybe let me keep it simple with the ginger lemon concoction.
Yeah, you can't go wrong.
All thanks to you. One of your inventions or recommendations.
Yeah. No,
and you've got this colorful drink.
What is
in
this
your glass.
orange gooey stuff that you're drinking?
Yeah, so it's actually carrot, apple, and ginger.
Okay.
Yeah, it's superb, marvelous,
Yeah.
Fantastic.
delicious as well. Try it at home. Mix the ingredients.
Did you make it yourself, or you got it someplace?
Yeah, I got it somewhere else. I'm not going to say where because they're not paying and I'll be in trouble with Zia. But yeah, it's beautiful.
Okay, fantastic.
So, gentlemen, let's start with Starlink and the impact that Starlink had on our economy and how Econet responded and everything. I mean, now we can actually look back and try and see what the impact was. Was it exactly what people were expecting, and how has the market responded? Maybe you want to start.
So yeah, I think Starlink is a very successful product. It's now in more than 140 countries. And there was a misconception when it actually started, people started using it in Zimbabwe, that it was going to disrupt the fiber based providers, it was going to take over the market. But one of the things that has become clear since people started adopting Starlink is that it's got limited capacity in very dense cities like Harare. So I think, they actually they're constantly upgrading the network, but from time to time they get to a point where they can't take on new connections in Zimbabwe, in Harare. But I think, it's competition. It's a different solution. It's fantastic as an advocate of, free markets. I think it's great. And obviously the local players had to respond with a similarly priced product. And, Econet was first out the blocks with this SmartBiz product that's, priced to compete with Starlink. But it's actually much more accessible. In terms of their capacity to provide it to different, to lots of people in Harare. I think, they don't have the same bottleneck that Starlink has. And it seems to me, from what I've read over the last few days, that the market fell in love with this product, and it was adopted very quickly. So it was very popular. Obviously
so that actually was an opportunity as far as SmartBiz was concerned and Econet was concerned.
Yeah, they I think, look, they responded to changes in the market, and I think they came up with a great product, which is and it's not just my opinion; it's the data from the uptake of this product. Like people really signed up for it in a big way. So it was very successful in that regard, and kudos to.
But we've seen a bit of challenges with SmartBiz as well as with Starlink, where I think initially it was uncapped. But I think that because there was a surge in the number of people who were signing up, the network started developing problems here and there.
Yeah,
is that something that is unique to Zimbabwe, or it's something that we've seen even in international markets?
So globally, when it comes to broadband, when they say it's unlimited, it always comes with a caveat that it's a there's a fair use issue, right? So if I'm
explain fair use.
So if I sign up for a product as an individual and I want to use it for my personal purposes, right? I can't then go and set up an internet cafe and have 100 people downloading movies and playing online games and just consuming inordinate amounts of bandwidth. So and this is not so what they do globally is they will monitor your consumption. They've got a good sense of what's normal, like what a reasonable human being will consume in a 30-day period, and then they can see the outliers. The guy who's using 100 times what an average human being is consuming, and then they tend to throttle those individuals. So I suspect there's a lack of understanding of the idea. When something is unlimited, there is that fair use issue.
And that's fair enough. And we've seen something similar as far as Starlink is concerned. And I know you use Starlink. Maybe you can just give us a bit of a background to your experience with Starlink and what has actually happened. You were one of the first few of the blocks on Starlink.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about the whole issue of fair use. So Mkanya, you see there's maybe a water shortage problem in your neighborhood. You then install a tap, and you say to your neighbors, you can get as much water as you want, right? Like it's unlimited. It's outside your gate. And one of your neighbors thinks of some fantastic business idea. Every day they are loading up a Bowser of water, right? They're starting to sell it. I think that it's unfair use. you are allowed to access this precious product, which is the water, and as much as you can consume, you as an individual and your family. But when you then start going beyond your individual requirements or your family requirements and start maybe creating a business out of it, in a way, because at the end of the day, the water, the source where it's coming from, it's either they are paying for it, whether it's connected to the city council or
it's still a borehole and it's
still
limited
borehole,
supply.
It has got limited supply.
Yeah.
So I think it's a concept. But I also just wanted to say, Starlink was a good thing coming into this market. We are all for free markets, isn't it?
Yes.
So whenever a new product,
Some more than others.
yeah. Well, he thinks he's at the very top of that food chain. That's okay. So it's a new product that came in, and I think what it did was it actually lowered the cost of internet, of bandwidth, of connectivity for everyone, and the local providers who are already on the market had to do something. And it's not just Econet. I mean, quite a number of these businesses.
Service providers,
yes, ISP providers that had laid before then fiber was a big thing. So the fiber connections to every home and etc. They had to adjust their prices and also their service level. So it's really. But the way I look at it, it's mostly well suited for, say, remote places. But what I've seen with Starlink is very good with downloads, but performs poorly with uploads. That's why
Is that intentional or
It's just the nature of the product.
I think the nature of the product is such that it's going to the end user. So they are most likely to be downloading, whether they are movies or whatever, as opposed to uploading. But I think when you're uploading, it's actually more business, because you may be either you're creating content, you're pushing something,
or voice.
A voice. But downloading, you're actually consuming, and so you'd find that it does very well in terms of that downloading services. When we tried to use it for uploading work, it failed.
So we don't use it for the show.
We don't use for the show. We still use other options. Yeah. So clearly, it has got a use, and also this idea that in places where you don't find base stations, there was no internet connectivity, right in some remote areas. It works well, because there you are not looking for super fast downloading speeds. You just want access to the internet. But obviously, when it came, there was this euphoria, because people, we were coming from a history of maybe paying higher, that maybe it was going to replace the service providers who were already there. But I see it as complementing. And now, after almost like 6 months now, things are beginning to stabilize. Now you know where it fits as a product.
True.
So it's possible that
it's not there to replace.
No. So I use fiber on certain services. I've got mobile broadband on my phone, and I use Starlink. So I can't, at this point in time, I can't see a situation where I would get rid of the other services, because there are certain instances where you can't use.
Okay.
You can't use Starlink.
Let's get into that, because I like what Zia is talking about here. That actually, when you look at the marketplace, everybody has a place. Let's look at how Econet has responded, and primarily with SmartBiz, because I thought that was very innovative, and it's a product that lots of people can use, whether it's home use or it's business. Granted, fair use is important, and I think we need to put it out there and highlight that, ladies and gentlemen, the more we misuse this benevolence, the more it hurts everybody in the marketplace. And I think it's important that we realize that everybody's in business to make money, but it's also very important that Econet and everyone else, the service providers, are innovative enough to give us this product. So I thought that in particular was a good response from Econet. What's your view and what's your take on SmartBiz?
Yeah, look, I think competition brings out the best of individuals and companies. It forces you to sharpen your pencil and improve and be better. And this is what we've seen with SmartBiz. You had a different product, different solution from Starlink. It created, it was adopted by a certain segment of the market. It created a certain buzz. There was a certain narrative that they were going to disrupt the industry and change the market. And as one of the older legacy players, Econet had to respond, and they did. Which is exactly what you expect in an open and competitive market. And the biggest beneficiary is the consumer. And so everybody's better off. It reminds me of what we saw happening in the beverages space with the entrance of Varun and Pepsi, right? A lot of people thought that they were going to eat Delta's lunch, but what's actually happened is that Delta's doing record volumes in carbonated soft drinks.
Yeah, because it actually stimulates the demand.
And yet people are consuming a lot of Pepsi. And there's another player in the market. I think Pro Brands is also in the fizzy market, and they're moving meaningful amounts of volume. So the consumer is better off. The consumer
it actually does stimulate demand. For once, I actually didn't know that there was a SmartBiz. So what's your take on the competition and what it has actually done to service providers?
Competition is good. It's good because it then gives value to the customers. So it's, you don't like a monopolistic kind of scenario where, in that case, obviously, the supplier has got all, is holding all the levers, and he or she can control what service you can get, and but a situation where you've got all different service providers coming into serving different pockets of the market, I think it's good for everyone. Like that example that Shumba has given, that there is a market for Pepsi. There's a market for Coke. When you look at it, actually, the total hectoliter consumption of carbonated soft drinks has actually increased. So it's actually good for the economy as you do that. And so when you look at, I would say the response from the mobile service providers, in this case Econet, was really spot on, because, from outside they looked like they were going to be cleaned out. And they responded. And when you look at the issue of the pricing and how then over time maybe prices changed, besides the issue of fair use, it's also a very basic marketing strategy. So you are seeing competition. This is a big player that is coming into your market. You have to defend it. Do you guys know that Hungry Lion is now in Zimbabwe? So they set up a shop at the Green
I don't
Foods.
even know what Hungry Lion is.
So Hungry Lion is actually...
It's a fast food competitor of KFC and Chicken
in South Africa. Okay. So it's quite big. So their first shop is at the Greenfields shopping mall along Bulawayo Road, just at the agriculture show. And you know what Simbisa did? They right now they're running a promotion where a 2-pizza with a pit of Peps is going for $3. They're saying it's only for the Greenfields shop.
Outlet. Yeah.
What's wrong with that? So, obviously,
the consumer is gonna.
So for consumers, obviously, you
fair use.
If it's yes, so you are told
somebody will go and buy 1,000, 2 pieces and then sell them elsewhere.
Wow.
So obviously they will then limit.
Yes, obviously it's also not practical, because you can't then start selling them on the streets. People prefer to go to the counter and buy.
But they're not going to take an order for 1,000.
Yes.
2 pieces from one person.
Exactly. But all I wanted to say was, you don't expect that shop to continue selling at $3 forever.
Right.
This is just a competitive strategy. And so if you're doing that, say in the case of SmartBiz and what Econet did, it comes at a cost. the network, the capacity issues we're going to be a problem at some point where you're saying, okay, you can just come on board, it's uncapped. So I think what they've managed to do is really to push this product to the market and say, you know what, this is what you have. Now you can pick and choose. If you think the services were good or were competitive, maybe beyond the price, one would say, okay, fine, no, there's Starlink, but I think I prefer this. The same thing that I think
I actually think that there's still so much value in fiber, and more than anything, I feel like it's really necessary for me to have the customer-facing agent, somebody I can call, I can talk to. I still feel that it's much better than Starlink. I don't know if anything happens, or it tends to happen with some of us with technology. We're not as savvy as our good friend, but we always want to talk to somebody, and I want to know that this is Econet, and I know where they're located, and I know where the service provider is located, and I bought it from a shop, and I know where that shop is, and if anything should go wrong, I know exactly where to go. I'm not expecting my SmartBiz package coming through in FedEx, and then wait, and then call an American call center. Well, probably an Indian call center to talk about. But so competition is good, and
I just want to also just make a point about capital allocation, which I think is quite interesting whenever people talk about Starlink, which is, if a government anywhere in the world had dreamt up this idea of trying to colonize Mars, everybody would think, what a colossal waste of state resources. Right, but if an individual, using their own resources, nobody cares, right? And one of the and when they set up this company, its aspiration is to colonize Mars, but they had to fund it somewhere, and they had to figure out how to do this somewhere along the way. And as a side effect, as an unintended consequence, they came up with this product called Starlink that everybody around the world now is finding use with. So there's always fortuitous things that happen when you let entrepreneurs loose in the world and run sometimes crazy experiments, right? Because if anybody had said that they're setting up a company to colonize another planet, it's a crazy idea, right? How it doesn't make any sense, but now everybody's benefiting from global satellite internet. So I think it's that's one of the teachable or one of the lessons from this is let the entrepreneurs cook
and let the market decide.
Yeah.
So talking of crazy experiments, there's the crazy experiment that we are on, and I say that advisedly.
Are you talking about our economy now, Zimbabwe?
The monetary policy statement, we saw it coming out a few days ago, and I just thought that, let's get into the weeds. But maybe, and we, our usual, we do the good, the bad, and the ugly. But perhaps to just start off with, let's just get your overall view of the MPS statement. I think it's now more than a year that we've had John Misalignment present his monetary policy statement. Is he on the right track? Is he not? What are the issues that we need to talk about? So let's just start with just an overall view. What are your thoughts?
So if you are going with the key objectives of price stability, exchange rate stability, and also just stable current framework, you'd say maybe in the last 6 months the report has been positive. Just looking at it as on the day, without really trying to dive deeper or trying to dig deeper into, how was that achieved? So I think even from the statement itself, they obviously, as one of the issues that they are flagging as the positive, that we have achieved price stability with inflation now within 0.5% per annum per month, and then ZIG inflation annual 95%, and they're hoping that by the end of the year it will be 30%, and then the exchange rate around 27. There was that spike last year, I think September, October, and then the willing buyer, willing seller, they're saying it's working very well. The RBZ had to intervene with just under $500 million US dollars, for 48 million actually, to try and stabilize things, and then to try and then also then support the productive sectors. They introduced the targeted finance facility, which has so far supported mostly manufacturers.
We'll get into the weeds, but your overall perspective, good, bad, ugly thoughts?
So there are some positives because the issue of the price stability.
So it's balanced. It's got some good and it's got some bad.
Yes.
Okay. And Shumba?
I have a much less charitable take. I think everything that Zia said is correct, but that's I think that's a superficial analysis. The reality is that ZIG market share has not improved significantly over the last 6 months. In fact, a lot of people, the market is 80-90% USD. And the 6 months of relative exchange rate stability has that engendered more confidence in ZIG? When I interact with market players, to the extent that they get any exposure to ZIG, they are anxious to immediately get rid of their ZIG holdings because they don't have any faith and confidence in the currency. So to the extent that the Reserve Bank aspires wider adoption of the local currency, to the extent that the central bank aspires to faith and confidence in the local currency, I would say they failed miserably in this regard, notwithstanding the fact that they haven't printed and the rate has been stable.
Okay, good points overall. So let's actually now get into the weeds, something that might be useful to our audience and to the policymakers also as direct feedback to them. I think I would take from what Shumba has said that ZIG is irrelevant in our economy, and more importantly, our problems are always currency exchange problems. And when we talk about exchange rate problems or exchange rate management problems, what we're essentially talking about is my ability to import. If I have rands in South Africa, if I've exported and I've been given rands, I should be able to import, and I should do so on a whim whenever I want to. When you look at our ZIG, we've imported over 5 billion in the 6 months. But ZIG imports are only 448 million. That's less than 10%. It means that our importers have to find their own currency. To me, that's a worry. That's a big worry, because if you're talking about greater usage, and it hasn't changed from 2024 when John the First was still there, if we're talking about greater usage, it's really about that exchange of ZIG to US dollars.
The fungibility, it's just not there.
Well, not just the fungibility, but the guy who's using, who really wants the confidence in ZIG, is the guy who wants to import, who says, you know what, I'm trading, I'm now selling my goods in ZIG, and I'm getting the ZIG, and I want to import. But what is happening is the ZIG is just not there. So they end up just trading in...
And to the extent that it's there, it's not actually fungible. This is something that, I'm going to harp on about until my voice is hoarse. So if you have a ZIG account that's linked to Visa or MasterCard, you should be able to travel and just swipe, like people do with a normal fungible currency. This conversation that we have in Zimbabwe about...
I think you are given an allowance.
But why do you need to be given an allowance? Why do you need to go through that process where you make an application?
We're still limiting how much you can...
Right. Use. So we have this conversation in Zimbabwe about whether you can buy fuel in local currency or not. But if the local currency is fungible, you should be able to take your local currency debit card and swipe at a service station and swipe in US dollars, and it just converts, right? Like a fully fungible currency does
true.
everywhere else in the world.
So that's the ugly, but I wanted to start with the good. I was just giving my general perspective. The good, to me, it looks like he consulted quite widely. Unfortunately, the people that he consulted, as usual with Zimbabweans, is they don't really push the truth or the thing.
So you weren't consulted?
No,
clearly.
I wasn't consulted. I wasn't consulted.
And that's your gripe.
No, that's not my gripe. Because, and that's why I'm saying it's actually a good thing. Yeah, I'm saying it's actually a good thing that they consulted, and it's actually a good thing that they actually listed the people that they consulted and what they asked. So if you're a CZI member, so if my gripe would be with CZI and ZNCC, because they were given a platform and they didn't talk about,
fungibility.
They didn't talk about fungibility. They didn't talk about exporter surrender not being paid. They talked about other things.
Yep.
That are peripheral to the real elephants in the room, to the real core issues. So my gripe would not be with the governor. The governor is actually consulted widely. But I would say...
And we need to give him credit for that.
And we need to give him credit. So the good is I am giving him credit for that. And I'm actually giving him credit that he actually then listed the things that these guys raised. He says, these are your market...
these are
the issues that they've raised.
So I'm conflicted.
Okay, because you were consulted.
No, because I'm the deputy chair of the ZNCC macroeconomic subcommittee, and I didn't attend maybe this term's consultation, but in the past, all those issues that you are raising now were actually raised with the governor. And I think in different forums, there was actually a meeting where the ZNCC actually went and sat down in the Central Bank leadership. And those issues are always raised on a sort of a regular basis. And it's not like they don't know about them. That's why actually even recently, I don't know if you're going to go there where, the PEMSEC was talking about, there's this thing that they have not been paying exporters, the Zim dollar ZIG component of the surrenders, and it's there. Businesses have been harping about this for the longest. It's not happening. It's not because business is not pushing, and I think look, it's probably an inconvenient kind of thing for them, but they know that exporters...
he didn't even say a thing about the exporters. In the entire 108 pages, he didn't even...
So look, it's certainly a government of Zimbabwe...
This thing that is a real problem. And... Again, we had Treasury the week before presenting their midterm budgetary review, and they didn't even speak about it. And this is a big thing.
So is it because you think they're saying it's not important, or
it's the sort of news that they don't want out there?
Yes.
No.
It's uncomfortable news.
Yes,
exactly.
They don't want to have the conversation because, and this is something that I find quite vexatious when I apply my mind to it, because the Reserve Bank should think of exporters as its partners at a certain level, right? And if it's got challenges where it's unable to honor its commitments vis-a-vis the retentions, the honorable way to deal with that problem is to actually get the exporters in a room and say, hey guys, we have this problem. How can we resolve it? And, the exporters, they have a platform.
Well, they have. So the latest that we know, which is unfortunate because we have to learn this from, some very creative journalists who've tried to get information and try to understand. What we now know is that there's an MOU that was signed with Treasury, between the exporters and Treasury. And this MOU then said, okay, this is the amount that's owing, and on this particular day, we will eventually pay. But I think when this MOU was done, I think the retention was 15%, it wasn't 30%, and now that because it's 30%, I think it's hurting the miners primarily the miners. We know that platinum prices have not really...
They're not great, no.
They're not great. So it's become an issue. And it doesn't look like government will be able to pay. We saw what government revenue looks like, and it does not look like they're going to pay. And then also the thing that really gets everybody worried is we know that they haven't been able to pay their suppliers, and we know that there are TBs that have matured that haven't not been paid. So if you're an exporter, yes, you might have this paper where Treasury is telling you that they owe you and they're going to pay, but you just don't have the confidence. And we need to put it out there. There were a lot of journalists when we raised this issue a year ago who said this was a figment of our imagination, that actually Treasury was paying. And I think this is the misnomer that we have in our economy, right? Where these guys are just not open enough. Because if they were open enough, then we'll be able to do our calculations. We'll be able to know that, okay, this is the current state of our nation and the current state of our affairs.
But gentlemen, in addition to that, you know, we've got this amazing brain trust in banking and finance, right? You know, and to the extent that the government might have a liquidity challenge, that we might, you know, that we need to restructure our national debt, that we need to figure out how to raise a bunch of money to soothe these challenges, we've actually got the intellectual capital to figure it out. But we need to be having an honest conversation about the nature of the problem and realistic solutions.
So my problem is I don't think they actually acknowledge that there's a problem. So that for me, that's a problem. And their attitude when they are interacting with their creditors, they actually don't see them as creditors. You know, so ideally, if you default on your payments, when you go to your bank, it's you want to sit down with your bank and say, you know what, can I please can I reschedule my loan? Maybe I can do this and that. You know, you are appealing to the bankers to sort of understand your story. I think the problem with Treasury is, in my view, they actually, whenever they're interacting with the exporters that are owed money, there's arrogance, they are condescending, they are patronizing, they feel like, you know what, we don't owe you. And you see, I think it's actually because they've had a history of not paying and getting away with it. Yeah. So
okay, so their view is, I'm actually acknowledging what I owe, because actually I could just give you Zim dollars that are worthless,
yes,
and I could just devalue
and then walk away
and just walk away. So that I'm actually doing this. I'm doing you guys.
I'm doing you a favor, but they get to pick and choose when they can pay, or they're actually setting some preconditions. How can you say no? We won't pay. Yeah, we owe you, but we won't pay you because we are worried that the economy will this and that. Look, that's your problem. Pay up, right? That's the only.
And you've actually used up my US dollars.
Exactly. You have to pay up. I mean, I'm yet to hear of any other arrogant debtor who is at that level. At least they have to say, no, we have got a problem. We are trying to fix our affairs. But let's work together.
Why is it the exporters are not coming out also as well, you know, and saying, guys, we have this problem? Because, like I said,
yeah, they do from time to time.
This has been a problem for years actually. And whenever this issue has been raised, it's being raised through murmurs, but never really from the exporters themselves, saying, you know what?
Oh, you mean
drawing a line publicly? We're drawing a line in the sand and saying, you know what, you guys, because you guys are not addressing it, and yet it's the elephant in the room.
Yeah, but you see, there is a culture of diplomacy. So you know, you can't.
Diplomacy is not the right word.
Yeah,
complicity,
subservience.
Yeah. Well,
okay, gentlemen, let's hone in. The first thing is we've talked about the bad and the ugly. And I'm going to have to draw some good out of you guys. Can you give me one good?
No, we've already discussed one good.
No, that was my good.
Okay. No, I think it's good that they haven't printed. You know, I think as bad as the situation is, it would be worse. if we printed and pretended to pay the exporters, that would actually be much worse. I think this standoff where there's a conversation happening around how is the state going to meet its obligations is a much better place to be than a scenario where we're making headlines globally again.
Great. That's a good. I agree. Good.
I'll try and glean some good out of a very unpleasant scenario. But I think I think we have seen the FIU backing off a little bit in terms of its policing of pricing in the shops. So I think allowing retailers...
But they've just come out again.
Yes, that's where I wanted to go. So allowing retailers to be able to
price the good
in US dollar at a rate that makes sense for them. I think that has been positive. But I didn't like what I then saw in that statement where the FIU has been unleashed again to go and monitor, ensure that no one is, in fact, operators are not in any way shunning the ZIG. But ideally, if you are selling stuff, you are happy to sell in any currency, right? Yeah, but it's when you start seeing an operator, a business person saying, I can't collect my dues in this currency, it's because of past experience. So instead of using a sort of aggressive way of getting the ZIG accepted, I think if there's one thing that they need to solve for is the issue of confidence. Why is it there's no confidence in ZIG? If they can solve that, all these other things that they're trying to do, then they may not be necessary. People are just not confident in whether transacting in ZIG or keeping the money in ZIG. The question is why.
Okay, I'll pick up another good because I can see you guys are struggling with the goods. Another good thing is actually that the reserves are actually increasing if they're there. There's a big question of whether or not the reserves are actually there.
Oh my
but the idea that when they started, you had 250 million US dollars worth of reserves, and now you're closer to 730 million US dollars worth of reserves. That's actually in a year. That's a huge change, and that's actually a good thing. Now, the bad thing is we haven't seen those reserves trading. We haven't seen the market mechanism Tinashe. Usually that's what we would want. And just let me just finish on this because it's a critical thing. The second good thing is they now have started talking about import cover, that they want to aim for 3 to 6 months import cover. We haven't had this discussion. If you remember when this issue was raised, they said, no, it doesn't matter in a multi-currency system. This is what we want. And then I think now we've got them, actually acknowledging and agreeing that what is important is an import cover. And our reserves, although they've grown, they're just not enough reserves as far as import cover is concerned.
So I want you to reconcile two things, that from what you are saying, we're assuming are both true, right? Number one, we're saying our reserves have grown. Okay, so we've got more cash and more gold, right, in a vault someplace. Okay. Number two, we are failing to pay creditors. Reconcile the two, please.
Yeah. Like I said, if we believe the numbers that are reported, reserves have increased.
Yes.
But the bad is we haven't seen those reserves actually doing what reserves are supposed to do.
So we are growing savings, but not paying creditors.
It doesn't. It's not reconcilable. I agree. It's not reconcilable. And that's the bad.
Are both of these things true? Which one, or is one of them likely not to be true?
One of them is likely not to be true. But I think those are the two good things that I saw in that statement. So I think that's necessary so that when we then get into the bed, and I think we've talked about.
But also the de-dollarization roadmap, the fact that they're trying to put into place frameworks so that post 2030, contracts that are entered now in US dollars will be respected even post 2030.
That's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a
If
good
they
thing.
can follow through on that one, then that would be great. And they were saying that I think the details of that framework, de-dollarization framework, is going to be in the NDS 2 that is under
Construction, yeah.
construction. So
I actually think that this is another conversation that we should have around the currency. The very idea, this notion that we're going to wake up one day and step away from the dollar as Zimbabwe in our lifetimes, it's ridiculous, right? It's inconceivable. I think it's a pie in the sky, and whenever I hear mention of monocurrency, I just cringe. I just think, this is just,
I think it's something that the politicians would love to hear.
But the reality is, if you look globally, it's exceedingly rare for a country that's gone through hyperinflation and dollarized to actually bounce back with its own currency.
Israel was the only one that succeeded, and
they had a currency board.
And also the American support, huge American support.
So it's not going to happen. You see these, and I think it's a fundamental issue in terms of understanding how money and currencies work, right? That decrees don't work in the universe of money and currency. Confidence is built over years and decades. So if the state is serious about a scenario where 99.9% of the transactions in the local economy are in a local currency, they actually need to be listening to the market and wooing the market and persuading the market that they are better off transacting in ZiG, and I think many players have said this. This IMTT is just a tax on transacting through the formal banking sector. True. It's already shrunk from north of 10% of 11%, what the fiscal was collecting to now circa 3%. So is it really worth having this IMTT? Maybe if you want the ZiG to gain market share against the US dollar, remove IMTT on the ZiG. That's a 2% incentive for people to transact more in ZiG.
And for a lot of business, that's a good profit margin.
Yeah, make it fungible. Make people with ZiG accounts able to pay for their fuel or their Netflix or whatever it is.
So I'm just looking at the time. We've done the bad, we've done the good, we've done the bad. We started with the bad and then we did a bit of good. Let's talk about the ugly. What's horrendous about this policy that you feel very strongly against, and you feel, you know what, guys, unless we solve this, we're not going anywhere?
Oh, this one has caught me unawares. Something horrendous. I think I'll defer to Shumba as I try to
Shumba.
Yeah, so for me, it's just our continuing belief in the current framework where we have these exchange controls, right? I think that the single biggest albatross on Zimbabwe's economy is this exchange control issue, right? If you removed that, right, and capital could flow freely in and out of the country, we would get so much foreign direct investment. And this is our biggest own goal from an economic policy framework is we have all these exchange controls. We have a currency that we've mismanaged so badly that it's 10 to 15% of the formal economy, which itself is smaller than is a small segment of the whole economy because we've informalized so much. Because formal banking and formal rules and regulations have made it so hard to do business that the formal sector has lost meaningful market share to the informal sector.
Yeah. I mean, the informal sector, it's close to $2 billion that's actually, floating around, not in any given point in time, but I think that when you look at the inflows and outflows, and that's outside of our banking system, and that's a big problem. My ugly is something that was actually unsaid in the statement, because a week ago we had the Ministry of Finance come in, and then we've got the Ministry of, not the Ministry, but the Central Bank coming in. And what is clear is that these two statements are not speaking to one another. It feels and it seems that the fiscal policy is just doing what they want to do. And it feels and it seems like the central bank is just doing what it wants to do. Now, the problem is both are actually arguing that they are doing well and good as far as they're concerned. And they're sort of pointing fingers to the other guy. So if you look at the central bank statement, if you read in between the lines, what essentially they're saying is, we're not printing. Look at our numbers. If there are any problems, it's the guy who must pay. If there are TBs that haven't been paid, that has got nothing to do with me. If it's exporters that haven't been paid, that's got absolutely nothing to do with me. Find the problem at Treasury, not with us. We have stuck to the rule book, and as far as we're concerned, we're doing a good job. If you go to the Ministry of Finance and Treasury, Treasury comes out and he says, hey, guess what? I collected 101 billion ZiG, and I spent 101 billion ZiG.
I'm being disciplined, I'm being serious, the economy is going to grow, everything is munandi.
Yeah, I haven't paid some of my creditors. Well, that happens. I've got $21 billion in external debt I'm servicing, and I've actually put it in my budget that I'm going to pay about $1 billion this year, servicing my debtors. So anyone that I haven't paid, I think it's still well within my control as far as the fiscus is concerned. In fact, my big worry is I have an overdraft facility that I can't use, that central bank is saying I can't use. So I have to wait for Zimra inflows. And if I have to wait for Zimra inflows, as far as I'm concerned, that is the informalization of the market. That wasn't me. I didn't cause the informalization of the market, such that I can't control how much revenue I can get. So it's not my problem. As far as I'm concerned, look at my ratios. You're doing a fantastic job. The two are not speaking to each other. That's my ugly. Why I call it an ugly is because you can clearly see that there is going to be a train wreck at some point, or a train collision at some point, because these two have to reconcile with one another. And if they don't, if they're not speaking with one, frame of mind, then it's the economy that will suffer. Because one day, Treasury is just going to wake up and say, oh, you're saying we're the problem and we should pay up. Okay, we'll do. And we'll pay up. And we'll use what is legally an instrument with us. Because legally, they do have an overdraft facility. They haven't used it, as far as they're concerned. But if they use that, we all know what will happen. And then at the same time, it's central bank is so fixated on a rate of 26, which, frankly, is not edged in reality. Because if they were to devalue to the correct market value, and I think the market is somewhere between 35 and 40, then that actually will give a bit of leeway to Treasury, as far as Treasury is concerned. Because the Treasury is saying, well, that exchange rate you're telling us about is actually not the true exchange rate.
Well, look, to me, I've got a slightly different take. I think, so the fact that we've got an exchange rate that, to all intents and purposes, is set by the central bank is a problem. I think that the rate should trade freely. And because the central bank knows better than anybody, because they control the central ledger, which tells us exactly how much ZiG is in circulation. If, based on their model of the ratio of ZiG to US dollars and gold that they're holding, if they believe fair value is 26, then they should be happy to sell to people who want to pay 36, who want to pay 40, until those guys are completely out of the market, right?
They never utilize.
I don't understand. I don't understand. Why there would even be a parallel market if the narrative that there are these reserves backing it is true. Why?
Where are you differing with me? You seem to be supporting my argument.
Yeah. So what I'm
Actually,
saying,
that's what Treasury is arguing.
So you're saying, you see, you're talking about a devaluation, right? And I'm saying, well, if the reserves are there, right, and there's someone who thinks that fair value is at 36 or 40, well, give him.
Treasury disagrees. The market disagrees.
So my problem is there's actually total silence on the issue of the ZIG being backed by
gold and
US dollars and etc. Because if that had been maintained, with this, what you're just talking about, Mkanya, that the reserves have been going up, what should it mean? Surely it means it should mean somehow that
more fungibility.
Yes, more fungibility, and even the exchange rate itself
should strengthen.
It should strengthen, because I think what's backing it is actually gone up. So theoretically, it means it will take a very tiny portion of the reserves to wipe out all the ZIGs that are there. But you see, what it then does is maybe it was not true in the first place. And if that is the case, it takes us back to the issue of the confidence now. You can't have a policymaker who has got a tendency of just saying things, that they can't stick to. And then you expect the market to believe you next time you make an announcement.
Or walk the talk. Well, the new mantra in the entire statement is we are now walking the talk. So now you're saying no, they're not.
They're not. So at what point are we going to benefit from this increase in the reserves? How is that going to filter?
That's a very good point. Right now, it's purely theoretical.
It's theoretical.
Because in the market, they should have just poured in.
Yes.
Right? And then we should have seen the rate strengthening.
Exactly. So when you poured in the $500 million, what was the impact? What is it that they achieved with the $500 million that they put on the willing buyer, willing seller? I think we should be able to.
Why do you even need to fund the willing
so
buyer?
we're just following their framework. So theoretically, what are they telling us? If they not put in the $500 million, the rate should have been what? 50, 60? Or what are the benefits of the US dollars that they injected into the economy?
Well, they didn't inject. They haven't actually injected, or we haven't seen where they inject. This is just the exporters selling some of their proceeds outside of the 30% to the market, and then the importers taking some of that. But we haven't seen the central bank itself with its reserve account coming on to the willing buyer, willing seller, and saying, you know what, we actually don't believe where the rate is, but if you guys believe in that, here's the...
Give us
so what it speaks to is also, I think, in terms of just like the outlook. When they think about the market and interact with the market, it's very paternalistic at a certain level where they feel like they know better than the market, and that they're bad actors in the market. That if there's full disclosure and openness, they will take advantage of some of this information or capacity, free floating. And somehow sabotage the economy. So there's also there's a bit of cat and mouse in terms of we're going to show you some things, but some things, we don't think the market is ready for, or we don't think it's safe, to share with you. And so as long as there's this level of mistrust and suspicion regarding the market, I think that's also one of the handicaps in terms of progressive policy action.
And one thing that they can do, and something that really demonstrating that they're doing a bad job, is even the banks don't trust their regulator.
I think that's the cue to end the show. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Have yourself a wonderful evening. Please continue to share, continue to like. We need those likes. They're very important for the show. And continue to subscribe. Road to 10,000. Otherwise, have yourself a wonderful evening and a wonderful weekend. Till next time. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.